What's going on, everybody? I am back with another MLB DFS breakdown video. Going to be breaking it down opening day. Baseball is back. I'm excited about it. Going to be back to doing the home run calls, giving you guys the top plays, making you better MLB DFS players. And if you're new to the channel, would highly recommend you stick around and be giving out daily content throughout, giving you the top plays to really get you winning some money. And definitely know quite a bit about MLB, so I am excited about it. If you enjoy this content, would be greatly appreciated if you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. And if you are going to be very serious about MLB DFS, I do offer an MLB DFS premium package, patreon.com/KJK_DFS. That is linked below in the description. Check that out. I'll be giving you guys all of my core plays, the cheat sheet, the top stacks. You get access to all of my daily sheets, tools. Would highly recommend it. And lastly, this video is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you haven't signed up over there at PrizePicks, go ahead and give them a visit. Sign up using that promo code KJK DFS to receive an instant match deposit up to $100. Again, that is code KJK DFS. I'll also be giving out daily content for PrizePicks. So, without further ado, guys, let's talk about it. Let's go into the pitching first, as always. Then we'll break down the batting on the second half of the video. And as always, I'd like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K-rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. Figure out the top guys in the slate that we want to be targeting, and then we'll break down the bats in the latter half of the video. And the top guy today is going to be Shane Bieber, taking on the Kansas City Royals. He comes in with a 36.5% K rate overall, 16.6% swing strike rate with a 34.6% K rate to righties and a 38.3% K rate to lefties. Does a phenomenal job at limiting the hard contact, really elite strikeout stuff across the board. And he gets to take on a Kansas City Royals squad today that's really not all that threatening. And then when you're looking at their lineup up and down as far as the overall K rate that they provide, there's definitely some heavy strikeouts to be supplied in the middle of the order with guys like a Salvador Perez, Hunter Dozier, Alberto Mondesi, and Michael Taylor, especially towards the bottom of the lineup, all pushing a 25+% K rate. So Shane Bieber certainly going to be looking like a great option on this opening day slate. One of the top options. The only thing that's possibly somewhat concerning for him is he is coming off a shoulder injury. So he might be somewhat limited, but I think that's kind of the case for all the pitchers in this opening day. We don't really know how long of a leash they're going to have. We never do to start the season. So unfortunately, if he gets pulled around like 50 pitches or something, that would be a little bit I don't think that's likely, but that'd be a little bit unfortunate. And I'm not accounting for that. I think he's going to go out there and have a full leash. I'm treating all these guys as if they have a full leash, unless we get news or reports otherwise. Which if we do, I'll always be sharing that information with you over on Twitter. If you don't follow me over there at KJK_DFS, but Shane Bieber certainly looked like a phenomenal play on opening day. He's going to be number one option, and number two is going to be Corbin Burnes. He's taking on a Chicago Cubs squad, 35.9% K rate overall with a 16% swing strike rate. Really does a phenomenal job at limiting the hard contact as well with only a 26.2% hard contact rate, 36.7% K rate to righties, and a 35.2% K rate to lefties. So 35+% K rate to both sides. He gets to take on a Chicago Cubs squad that does strike out quite a bit as well. So I'm certainly looking to go to quite a bit of Corbin Burnes. I would say he's up there. They have limited their strikeout a little bit with the additions of Nico Horner and Nick Madrigal at the bottom of the order, Rafael Ortega and Schwindel at the top. They don't strike out quite as much as they did last year, but through the middle of the order, there's still plenty of strikeouts to be had. So, and the fact of the matter is, Corbin Burnes' stuff is just so elite. It doesn't really matter who he's taking on. 35.9% K rate overall, 16% swing strike rate. It's a 35+ K rate to both sides of the plate. Just a phenomenal elite pitcher. You can make an argument that he's the top guy on the slate, and I would not call you crazy. 100%. I would say it's him and Bieber. They're kind of competing 1 and 2. Which one of those guys you go with is going to be interesting. But I will say, obviously, the Chicago Cubs and Milwaukee Brewers game is only featured on FanDuel. So I should have brought that up at the beginning, but this game is only featured on FanDuel. So you can't go with Corbin Burnes over here on DraftKings. So that makes it a little bit easier. I mean, you're looking at Shane Bieber as the number one, in my opinion, at 8.3 at a discount off Yu Darvish. I do think he makes certainly sense as the number one here on opening day. Once again, the leash if he's limited, but I'm not accounting for that. I don't think he's going to be too limited. And Corbin Burnes certainly a great option. Then you have Yu Darvish at 29.9% K rate overall. It's certainly a good pitcher, but he really does dominate against righties when it comes to the strikeout category with a 34.4% K rate to righties. So he is more dominant against righties, and we're looking at the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup up and down as far as how many righties they're featuring. Not too many. They got a lot of lefties, a lot of switch hitters in there. Varsho, Marte, Peralta, Pavin Smith, Seth Beer, Geraldo Perdomo. So for me, I think his upside is going to be a little bit limited, and then you factor in his price tag. He's priced all the way up to 9.5 compared to some of these other guys down here at a pricing discount that we'll talk about later on in the slate. That might have a little bit of a better matchup. So for me, not quite as intrigued to pay up for a Yu Darvish. I mean, the pitching is somewhat limited on opening day, so if you want to go there, I wouldn't call you crazy, but paying up for pitching early on in the season isn't exactly the top approach anyways, I would say, being that we just talked about, like, some of the pitchers are limited, so you don't always have to pay up nearly as much as you do later on in the season. And we lost a lot of aces on this slate with some games being delayed, postponed, and there's no Garrett Cole now. So, some of the guys that we were going to discuss on opening day are no longer available for us to roster. So, Yu Darvish is a decent play for sure. He's one of the top pitchers on the slate, but like I said, I do think his K upside is going to be somewhat limited in this matchup. Shohei Ohtani gets a really tough matchup taking on a Houston Astros squad that really doesn't strike out. They have a really great lineup up and down that are very disciplined hitters. So for me, he's not really that intriguing, to be honest with you. I'd much rather take my next stop to Tyler Mahle. It's definitely a little bit of a high-risk, high-reward option when it comes to Tyler Mahle because he's taking on an Atlanta squad with a lot of power, but the strikeouts are there. Tyler Mahle does feature a 28.1% K rate overall with a 26.7% K rate to righties and a 29.6% K rate to lefties. So if you want to go to him, I wouldn't call you crazy. I do think there's interest to be had in the Atlanta bats and Tyler Mahle in this spot. It's one of those situations where, like, he could go out there and strike out all these guys, or he could get blown up. It's just kind of the fact of the matter. I mean, the Atlanta lineup up and down has some really high power, high contact hitters as far as like ISO and WOBA is concerned, but strikeout rate, there is quite a bit of strikeouts to be had throughout this lineup. So he's a little bit of a high risk, high reward option if you want to go there. Don't hate it. Tyler Miguel, I like to say, but apparently that's wrong. Tyler Miguel, or something along those lines, is a guy that I really am somewhat torn on here. He has a 28.2% K rate to righties, but against lefties is a 23.9% K rate, and he's really, really bad against lefties. But then when you're looking at the Washington lineup up and down as far as, what they're rolling out here on opening day, they do have quite a bit of righties. Like you're looking, Robles, Miguel Franco, Alcides Escobar, Lane Thomas. The middle of the order is where things get a little bit, switch hitter, left-handed heavy, but also their lineup's just not that great. So I think he has some sort of appeal in tournaments, but he's really, really scary bad against lefties. So we'll talk about that when we get to hitters. He's a high-risk, high-reward option as well. JT Brubaker is a no for me. Framber Valdez is a really good real-life pitcher. He does a phenomenal job of keeping the ball on the ground. The ground ball, fly ball stuff's good. But I do think his strikeout upside is somewhat limited, so I think he's a little bit more appealing on a site like a DraftKings. FanDuel, you really have to have a guy that goes out there and racks up the Ks, most likely. DraftKings, you can have a guy that's more so, likely to go deeper into the game, and it doesn't quite affect you. I mean, it's important to know the scoring of the site you're playing on. On DraftKings, you can see innings pitched, strikeout, win, earned runs allowed, hit against, based on balls against. These are all factored in. FanDuel, you're really looking for a lot of strikeouts and a quality start. A guy to pitch 6 or more innings. With allowing 3 or less runs and just get as much strikeouts as possible. So the scoring format is a bit different. So it's important to know which site you're playing on. Framber Valdez is certainly a decent option over at DraftKings. I do have more appeal to him there than I would on FanDuel. Max Fried taking on Cincinnati. There's a lot of strikeout stuff, but once again, he's more of a good real-life pitcher himself. He doesn't have the highest strikeout rate. Really good ground ball, fly ball stuff. He's kind of a sinker baller, similar to Framber Valdez that we just discussed. So another solid option. Just the strikeout upside, I think, is somewhat limited. And then another guy that, probably the last guy I want to talk about is Adam Wainwright. He's taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates are a really great matchup. They're going to be a team we're targeting all season long. It's in St. Louis, which is a good pitcher's ballpark as well. We haven't talked about ballpark factors too much here. This is something I'll talk about throughout the season a lot. Busch Stadium, you can see it's a pretty good pitching environment overall. A lot of red here going on as far as the hitting environment. Not exactly the friendliest of confines to opposing hitters, which is obviously good for our pitching. And Adam Wainwright is in a phenomenal spot here. He's a 200 favorite. His team's expected to give him a lot of run support. And he gets to take on a Pittsburgh Pirates team that, as I discussed, is not the strongest lineup. When you're looking at the strikeout rate up and down here, as far as Pittsburgh is concerned, a lot of high strikeout hitters. Over 25, around 25% throughout the heart of the order with guys like Hayes, Tsugo, etc. So I certainly do like targeting some Adam Wainwright at a discount. I think he's going to be a viable pitcher for you in your opening day lineups. So heading on over to the hitting department of the slate. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, worst to best, skill and active ERA. It's a good way of determining how good a pitcher's been so far, or these are the last 2 year statistics and how good they're expected to be in the future. And the top guy to target today is going to be Madison Bumgarner taking on the San Diego Padres. He has been absolutely terrible as of late in the last 2 years of his career. Has a really low swinging strike rate. Ground ball, fly ball stuff is not good, giving up a ton of hard contact, especially against right-handed hitters. He gives up a 490 slugging with a 40.7% hard contact rate, a 341 WOBA, 45.4% fly ball rate. That is just not good. He does get a little better against lefties, but certainly going to be interested in targeting him with the right-handed hitters, and the San Diego Padres certainly have a few good ones. They get to go into Arizona, which is much friendlier hitter confines than they is at their home stadium. Pulling up the Arizona Diamondbacks Stadium here, Chase Field, you can see really great hitting environment. Unfortunately, left field doesn't play quite as friendly as right field down the line to those left-handed hitters. So the right-handed hitters, not quite as friendly, but they have guys that can hit the ball 400 plus feet off of Madison Bumgarner, who, just as discussed, gives up a lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact. We can live with that, and they certainly do. They have some righties that really crush. Manny Machado, Luke Voit, Will Myers, Austin Nola, certainly the guys you're looking to. I mean, Machado's a phenomenal play on this slate today. Would not be surprised in the least to see him take Madison Bumgarner deep. And he's certainly going to be looking like a great play. And the same can be said for Luke Voit, Will Myers. Like I said, all the righties. The lefties aren't nearly as appealing. Unfortunately, the Padres do have quite a few lefties, but if they can get Madison Bumgarner out of the game early and get into that bullpen, those lefties could be contrarian plays that maybe aren't quite as high on your tournament lineups. Stack up those guys with the rest of your San Diego Padres stacking can be looking good. Second guy you want to be targeting is Patrick Corbin taking on the New York Mets. He comes in with a 19.4% K rate. Really doesn't strike anybody out too much, and he's giving up a lot of hard contact. Same thing can be said as Madison Bumgarner. He is a left-handed hurler that gives up a lot of hard contact to righties. A 544 slug in your righties with a 38% hard contact rate, a 382 WOBA to righties, and a 17.7% K rate. So once again, a guy that we're going to be wanting to target with right-handed power bats. And the New York Mets definitely have a good one in Pete Alonso. He's going to stand out as a phenomenal play on this slate today. He does look good. Starling Marte, J.D. Davis, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, James McCann, catcher at the bottom of the order, is notoriously known for crushing left-handed pitching. So the Mets stack, another one that you could certainly be going to. And the other thing is the Mets are on the road in Washington, which is once again a big ballpark upgrade for them. At home in New York, their ballpark confines are not nearly as friendly as when you're pulling up the Washington Nationals Park. You can see, especially down the left field line, it does play pretty friendly to right-handed batters. So that is something that we certainly want to be taking a look at today. For the Mets, they do get a big ballpark upgrade. And then weather as well, guys. I mean, I didn't touch on it. Arizona is going to be a phenomenal weather spot because they do play in a dome. They only open the roof. It's retractable roof. I mean, when it's hot out. So the Padres definitely get some friendlier confines in hitting environment than some of these other squads. You can see in Washington, it's only 55 degrees. And some of these other spots, we're going to talk about the winds blowing out. I mean, St. Louis, 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right center. Kansas City, 23-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right. Chicago Cubs, it's only available on FanDuel, but there is 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center in Wrigley Field, which is the field that is by far the most affected by wind, the Windy City, the way that stadium is designed. So I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I just want to touch on weather as well as we continue to go along here. I'm going to talk about this Milwaukee game now. Only available on FanDuel, but Kyle Hendricks, a guy that really does not strike anyone out. The ball's going to be put in play early and often. He gives up a 434 slugging to righties, a 465 slugging to lefties. Really does struggle more so against lefties. And that could be a problem for him in the Wrigley wind environment today. So the Milwaukee Brewers certainly looking really, really good on this slate tonight with a 5.79 implied team total, 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing out in Wrigley. Like I said, that is a big deal. Wrigley winds, you hear me say this a lot throughout the season, but it is the stadium that is most impacted by wind. When the wind's blowing out, it's a big deal, especially when you're factoring that the right field line doesn't play too friendly to hitters typically. You add in this wind factor, it could be a lot easier to be getting those balls over the wall. And going to be a phenomenal spot overall for this Milwaukee Brewers offense. They are on the road, which guarantees that they're going to get the 9th inning at-bats in the top of the 9th as well, which always helps the upside of your stack. Colton Wong, Christian Yelich, Andrew McCutchen, Willie Adames, Rowdy Tellez, Hunter Renfroe, Omar Narvaez, Lorenzo Cain, Jace Peterson. It's going to be a great stack. They've added a lot of power in the middle of that order as well. They have Tellez. Now they added Hunter Renfroe, McCutchen, Yelich. Really does just look like a phenomenal stack on opening day. They might garner a lot of ownership, but for good reason. I mean, it's in Wrigley Field with 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center against a pitcher that doesn't strike anyone out. And that's a recipe for some good stuff to go down for the Milwaukee Brewers today. I can promise you that much. So, good spot for them. Zach Greinke taking on the Cleveland Guardians, and in Kansas City. The thing is, Zach Greinke really doesn't strike anyone out, but the Cleveland Guardians do strike out at a really high clip, actually. I meant to touch on this during the pitching. So Zach Greinke might be somewhat interesting, but I do think the bats are interesting as well with the 5-10 slugging given up to righties. Specifically, the right-handed power bats are going to be the most interesting ones on the Cleveland Guardians today. So you're going to be looking to a Fanduel Reyes in the middle of the order would be my favorite option by far. I do think he's a nice one-off bat today. Armand Rosario, Miles Straw at the top of the order are righties that do have a lot of speed if they're able to get on base, so they always have a lot of speed upside. And, as stated, Greinke is really a guy that I do prefer to target with righties, so loading up on those righties is not a bad strategy. JT Brubaker taking on the St. Louis Cardinals is certainly a guy we're going to want to target on this slate today. He is not good. He gives up a 450 slugging to righties, a 481 slugging to lefties, so I do think the St. Louis Cardinals stack is certainly great. He is a lot worse against lefties, so it would be more ideal if the St. Louis Cardinals lineup featured more lefties, but they don't. But that's all right. They do have a 4.7 implied team total. It is in St. Louis, which is not the friendliest hitting environment, but there are 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right, which could be just enough of a weather impact for these Cardinals to, maybe launch the balls out of the stadium tonight. Dylan Carlson, just mentioned it, at the top of the lineup, going to be a fantastic option, taking on Brubaker with his splits. He does not fare well against left-handed hitting, so he's going to look like a fantastic guy to be targeting in the leadoff spot. Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Nolan Arenado, Albert Pujols, Paul DeJong, Yadier Molina, Harrison Bader, Tommy Edman at the bottom of the order. It's a very, very solid lineup, solid throughout. You'll hear me talk about a lot throughout the season. The quality of the lineup throughout really does matter because you need everyone to get on base. You need everyone to hit each other in your stacks when you're stacking up 3 or 4 of these guys in your lineups. So St. Louis Cardinals definitely do check all boxes in that category today. They are looking like one of the top stacks. Max Fried really doesn't give up a lot of hard contact, so it's tough to really want to promote the Cincinnati Reds, but they do have a couple of lefty mashers in their lineup that really do rake off lefties, and there are 12-mile ones blind to left. Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, Aristides Aquino at the middle order, and then Kyle Farmer, Nick Senzel at the bottom. Brandon Drury, they all do hit lefties really well. Specifically, Tyler Stevenson in the 4th spot. I mean, the guy just absolutely mashes off left-handed pitching. And he's always a guy that I really like to target against the lefties. It's just Max Fried, as stated. Doesn't really give up a lot of hard contact. Doesn't really give up a lot of fly balls. Tyler Mahle is a guy that we like to target with right-handed power. It's really that simple. He gives up a 474 slugging to righties with a 344 wOBA to righties. Against lefties, he is much more efficient. So there's definitely some right-handed power in this Atlanta Braves offense. Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Adam Duvall, Dansby Swanson, Travis d'Arnaud, all going to be viable options. And then, of course, while he is better against lefties, you could certainly round out your stack with guys like Eddie Rosario, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, etc. Because, I mean, they're the Atlanta Braves. They're really good. If they're able to knock out Tyler Mahle early in the game and get to the bullpen, their lineup is, once again, very, very good throughout. I mean, one of the top lineups in the league, so they're always going to be viable to be stacking up in your tournament lineups. Tyler McGill is a guy that we talked about, but he's terrible against lefties. Really, really, really bad. A 612 slugging, 39.3% hard contact rate with a 418 wOBA, 52.9% fly ball rate. That's not good, and he has to take on one of the most elite hitters in the league today in a Juan Soto from the left-handed side of the plate. So I can tell you that Juan Soto is going to be one of the best one-off power bats. The only problem is the Washington Nationals lineup is really ugly throughout. They have Soto, Cruz, Bell in the middle. That's fantastic. And then it drops off to Keibert Ruiz, Lane Thomas, Escobar, Franco, Victor Robles. That's going to be kind of the story throughout the entire season when it comes to talking about the Washington Nationals. They just have kind of an ugly lineup throughout, but I will say the lefties are in a phenomenal spot. Josh Bell with a ton of power, Juan Soto with a ton of power. I mean, you literally cannot script a better spot on opening day. When you're looking at these numbers for Tyler McGill, it's just not good. Not good against lefties. So all the lefties in their lineup certainly going to be viable. Shohei Ohtani, the same thing can be said for him. He is much more efficient against right-handed hitters than he is against left-handed hitters. He has a 32.6% K rate to righties. Against lefties, it drops all the way down to a 25.4% K rate. And he does give up a 429 slugging. So he's kind of the last guy on the slate that I would feel comfortable targeting for the most part. And I do want to target him with left-handed hitting. So the Houston Astros do have some really talented left-handed hitters in guys like Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Michael Brantley, etc. That certainly would be worth targeting in your lineups today, guys. So that is my overall breakdown of this opening day slate, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. But before I let you guys go, of course, I don't know if I mentioned it in the beginning of the video. I think I did. But if you didn't know, before I let you guys go, got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Pete Alonso. Doubling up on the home run call and the thumbnail boy here, Patrick Corbin. We talked about his hard contact issues against right-handed hitting with a 544 slugging, giving up 38% hard contact rate and a 382 WOBA. Not to mention only a 17.7% K rate. We know with Pete Alonso, he has massive power. The only thing we're really worried about is the strikeouts, and that is not an issue in this matchup. And when you're breaking down the repertoire of what Patrick Corbin will go to, he's mostly reliant on the sinker-slider combination. We'll break out the fastball from time to time with a 90-92 mile-an-hour fastball, but Pete Alonso crushes all of these pitches. Against the sinker, he features a 872 ISO with a 670 WOBA. Slider, not an issue either. A 317 ISO with a 591 CX WOBA. And lastly, the fastball, 90-92 miles an hour, Pete Alonso crushes as well with a 294 ISO and a 526 WOBA. Fantastic spot here for a guy that has a 306 ISO against left-handed pitching. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there we go, guys. Pete Alonso, get him in your lineups. He's going deep on opening day, and that is all from me. Hopefully you enjoyed this content. If you did, it would be greatly appreciated if you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. Wishing you all the best of luck on your opening day lineups, and we will see you in the next one.